with you today with the update you have all been waiting for. Today, we will be bringing you up to speed on the results of trial running and substantial completion, and outlining the plan and date for opening. I would like to begin today by taking a moment to reflect on the journey that has brought us here. Transit in Ottawa has come a long way. In 2001, the original O train opened as a single track line running north to south. This pilot project was intended to demonstrate the viability of rail in Ottawa and set the stage for the evolution of our public transportation system. In 2014, it was renamed Trillium Line. For many years, the Trillium Line served the community well, providing reliable service for customers, including many Carleton University students. This success eventually contributed to support for the Confederation Line project to begin building a light rail transit network in Ottawa. Since the system was growing, a new, clear identity system for the O-Train network was required that uses numbers and colors to improve refining for transit customers. And so today, while the line is now called O-Train Lines 2 and 4, our goal is to build on the strong story of the Trillium Line with enhanced features and an extended length to serve new and growing communities in the South. We didn't get here without a lot of hard work. Over the past 4 years, we have taken our time to ensure that the system is built right, applied lessons learned throughout each phase of the project, and tested the system from an early stage to build up the confidence that it will be reliable and safe. We have also actioned the recommendations from the public inquiry report, as well as our own lessons learned and the recommendations from third-party reviews. We haven't rushed this. We took the time required to ensure throughout testing, practice, and preparation. We have also developed a close, collaborative relationship with TransitNext to ensure that as we enter the operations and maintenance phase, we are both fully ready. This collaboration began during the construction phase and has continued to be emphasized all the way up to trial running. We have had the same objective: build a safe and reliable train system to serve our residents. We have focused on being as transparent and open as possible with council and the public so that you can have confidence in our rail system. In the spirit of that transparency, let me be clear. Even with all these preparations and lessons learned, we know that from time to time, there will be service disruptions on these lines. That's the reality of operating any transit system. On lines 2 and 4, there are 2 key challenges we know we will face. The long sections of single track. While single track helps to balance cost and reliability on the train system this size, it can pose challenges to operations. And we will need to continually monitor and manage the stability of the public information displays to provide customers with accurate information on their trips. However, I want to reassure you that we are taking the required amount of time to practice, develop, test, and adjust our team's training and operating procedures to be sure we are ready to respond. I'm confident that OC Transpo and our maintainer, TransitNext, are ready for the new challenges of revenue service. I'm proud of the work we have done, and I'm confident in the system. The benefits of this expansion will be felt across our city, transforming the way people move and making our transit system more reliable. By extending our transit network to more communities, we are transforming Ottawa, making it an even better place to live, work, and play. Next slide, please. Today, there are a number of items we will discuss, and several members of my team are here to present. Richard will go over the results of trial running, substantial completion, and the regulatory reviews required to launch lines 2 and 4. Charles Charter, which is the Director of Transit Service Delivery, will provide information on OC Transpo's system preparation activities. Pat will provide information on bus service through the launch. Finally, Amanda Thompson will talk about how we are supporting customers during the opening of these new lines. In addition, representatives from Ricardo are available virtually to answer any questions you may have. As you will hear from Richard shortly, Ricardo is an independent third-party oversight body who oversaw the trial running and provided recommendations that have informed our opening plans. Many activities are underway to be ready to open lines 2 and 4. Today's announcement is built on the successful completion of extensive planning, testing, and commissioning to ensure the system is ready. I want to thank Council and the residents of Ottawa for your patience with us during this process. I would also like to thank Transit Next, who we have worked with collaboratively since the onset of this project. Together, we have not only built a light rail system that will benefit many communities in the south of our city, but we have also established a systematic process that will continue to guide our future work. We look forward to continuing our work together over the maintenance period of lines 2 and 4. Now, I would like to turn the presentation over to Richard Holder. Richard, s'il vous plaît.
Merci, Renée, and good morning, everyone. I'm very happy to be here today to summarize the milestones and activities completed over the last few weeks and discuss the remaining works for the O-Train South expansion project. Thank you. So as a reminder, there was a 14-day trial running period to assess on-time performance of Transit Next. The chart here shows that trial running results were very strong, and Transit Next successfully completed the first 14 days with a 99.5% 14-day rolling average, exceeding the required 98.5%. This means, as a reminder, that 99.5% of trips departed within 30 seconds of the planned departure time from terminus stations. These results were very consistent and very strong. Next slide, please. Also, during trial running, the City and Transit Next tracked system and subsystems for their reliability. To give you an idea of the scope of the overall railway system, approximately 13,400 assets were monitored across the system, and the results showed us that there were very low levels of failures within those subsystems and devices. During this time, there were 3 types of issues that impacted Transit Next's 99.5% on-time performance. They included vehicle, signal, and track issues, and overall amounted to 26 trips out of 4,850 trips that were delivered by Transit Next as planned. When issues were identified, our teams worked collaboratively with Transit Next to make adjustments where possible and enhance service delivery. Thank you. I will now turn it over to Troy to provide an update on the operations and maintenance scenarios that were completed during the second phase of trial running.
All right, thank you. Merci, Richard. As previously communicated, the second phase of trial running was focused on working through different test scenarios that could be encountered during revenue service. This was successfully concluded at the end of service on October 27th. Au cours de cette étape, OC Transpo et
During this
TransitNet
period, TransitNet and OC Transpo participate in different test scenarios to validate and complete the day-to-day operation, especially to improve the new system. We focus on different scenarios where personnel had to intervene to solve some issues that could happen during the day-to-day operations.
A total of 15 different test scenarios were conducted, and they include 3 scenarios, which included activating emergency response equipment and responding to priority alarms within our control center. One of these included activation of the tunnel ventilation system in the Dow's Lake Tunnel. We also operated 2 specific scenarios that impacted the planned launch of trains to start service and required staff to make real-time adjustments to ensure that service started on time with minimal disruption. We spent considerable time conducting drills that required the coordination between OC Transpo and TransitNet personnel. 12 scenarios required a joint response between OC Transpo and TransitNet, involving communications between the Transit Operations Control Center and field personnel from both organizations. And lastly, 11 of the scenarios involved trains running in alternate service patterns, again requiring staff to make adjustments in real time and continue to communicate and coordinate. Overall, the 7 days were a success. No major gaps or safety concerns identified. Staff from both OC Transpo and TransitNet gained valuable experience and were able to put into practice their training in a real environment. Next slide, please. While the week-long exercise was considered a success, we did document a number of lessons learned that we were actioning as part of our refinements to our standard operating procedures. Following each exercise, observers and participants conducted debriefs of the exercises to document areas of strengths, but more importantly, to document general observations and areas for improvement. The observations from the debriefs were grouped into 4 broad categories. First category being the audio messaging for customers on trains and at stations. Ensuring the accuracy of the audio messages as well as the information displayed on the public information screens is extremely important. We also include in this category reinforcing the importance with staff of providing frequent updates to customers, whether it be on the train or on the platform. Second category was operational signage, enhancing clarity and wayfinding for passengers, including the deployment of temporary signage, which will help assist customers in navigating the system. Strengthening and practicing internal communications was the third category. Communications between train controllers, operators, and the maintenance team is key to boosting response efficiency during service disruptions. A high degree of communication is required in responding to incidents, and continued practice on the radio protocols will serve to ensure that all our parties receive all of the information they need in a timely manner and are kept up to date. And lastly, the fourth category was our alternate service plans. So based on our observations, some of our alternate service plans, or what we call diversions, have been adjusted to ensure more seamless and reliable service. I'll now pass things back to Mr. Holder.
Okay, thank you, Troy. Throughout every step of this project, we have had independent third-party oversight. I want to focus on the oversight that was provided during the trial running period. So we had 4 key consulting teams that were providing oversight during trial running. The first is Ricardo Rail. Ricardo Rail worked as a system integration verifier, but importantly, they provided oversight during the trial running period. Ricardo Rail participated in the daily trial running meetings, as well as having personnel in the field to review the system performance. AECOM was involved, providing oversight of all maintenance activities. So their main duties were looking at the work that was taking place within the MSF during the overnight engineering hours, as well as other activities on the line. Senna is our independent safety auditor, and they have the responsibility of ensuring compliance with all safety requirements on this project. And AW Hooker is the independent certifier. They verify all our certifications for payment to TransitNet, but importantly here, they validated the trial running and confirmed that the trial running objectives have been achieved. All of these independent and third-party experts brought unique expertise and insights, and their input and recommendations were and continue to be implemented in all aspects of this project. Next slide, please. So based on observations during trial running, Ricardo Rail provided key recommendations for a successful launch of lines 2 and 4. At a high level, some of the actions that we are taking in response to these recommendations include having ongoing practice for our operational staff. As you will hear from Troy, we want to make sure that the appropriate response to any disruptions becomes automatic for our teams, and that comes through practice. Another key recommendation was to introduce the system to a group of volunteers. And this is why, as you will hear later, we had a large dress rehearsal last weekend with a large number of city staff and family members. Another key action in response to the recommendations is to ensure that we have systematic touch points with Transit Next to review operational performance and fleet availability. This allows us to coordinate closely and ensure all our teams are on the same page as we move towards revenue service and into service. And then lastly, the final in-service timetable will be implemented several weeks ahead of revenue service. And that allows operators time to practice and increase schedule adherence. Next slide, please. So as we move through the phases, the next major milestone was substantial completion. Next slide, please. So a thorough and detailed review process was followed to achieve substantial completion. Transit Next submitted their substantial completion notice to the city on November the 14th. The city reviewed their submission, provided an assessment to Transit Next and the independent certifier, and then the independent certifier reviewed Transit Next's submission and the city's assessment. Ultimately, the independent certifier issued a substantial completion certificate on November the 26th. This milestone means that all major project elements were completed. Next slide. As is typical on all construction projects, achieving substantial completion also means that there may well be minor deficiencies that are completed after substantial completion. On this project, there are a number of items that will be outstanding. We are working hard with Transit Next to get as many done in the next few weeks as we can, but some items will remain until next year. So a summary of the more important issues, we have switch enhancements at Gladstone, which will improve operations and improve the quality of the ride for operators and for passengers. We have work to do on a hotbox detection system. Hunt Club roadworks were delayed until next year because of the onset of the winter conditions. We have modifications to the ringing volume of the train bells at stations. And we have two important items that we are working hard to have resolved before revenue service. So building the reliability of the passenger information displays and the replacement of several defective sensors in the elevators. As I said, we're aiming to have this work completed prior to the start of revenue service. And other items like topsoil and tree planting and landscaping items will occur early next year. Next slide, please. So moving on to the next phase, the regulatory review process. Next slide, please. Our teams have been working to advance the required safety oversight elements and regulatory certificates needed for revenue service. There are two key safety oversight elements that Transit Next must provide. The first was a submission by Transit Next of the safety case, which has been received by the city. The second is the receipt of the final report from Transit Next, and a review of TransitNext safety case by the city's independent safety auditor. This is a requirement for revenue service. Lines 2 and 4 are federally regulated, and OC Transpo has now obtained the 2 regulatory certificates that are required. They include the Certificate of Fitness by the Canadian Transportation Agency and an updated Railway Operating Certificate by Transport Canada. Before I hand it over to Troy to talk about system preparations, I want to say a big thank you to the multiple teams that have been working around the clock to get us to where we are today. Your dedication and professionalism has brought us to the success that we have now. Thank you, and over to Troy.
All right, thank you again, Richard. So we're at the system preparations phase, and while we're progressing through the substantial completion and all the regulatory reviews and all that final work that Mr. Holder was talking about, our team is also working concurrently on the final system preparation activities. Next slide, please. One of our main preparedness activities was the dress rehearsal, which was conducted on Saturday, November 30th. It was a huge success and a significant milestone for our department as we prepare for the opening. Similar to my colleague, I'd like to start by extending a heartfelt thanks to everyone that organized and participated in the dress rehearsal. There has been a significant effort and dedication to get us here, and we appreciate all the hard work that made it possible. More than 500 volunteers and staff took part, providing OC Transpo with the opportunity to observe how customers interacted with various parts of the system. In addition to operating the service for the first time with passengers on board, the dress rehearsal included a wide range of different scenarios that are likely to occur during service. A few of the scenarios included responding to a medical event, a lost child, an elevator outage, as well as the deployment of temporary signage. Next slide, please. We take a critical view when we conduct drills and exercises and look for areas where we can continue to refine and update our responses, our procedures, and our training. Staff have gathered initial feedback, and debriefs from the dress rehearsal are well underway. However, I can share that we've identified a few initial lessons learned, which include making minor adjustments, as well as continued familiarization with the train schedules, enhancing communication for efficient responses to disruptions, and continuing to familiarize our team with the various standard operating procedures in various conditions and situations. Following the debriefs which are ongoing, we'll continue to make any necessary adjustments that may be required. Next slide, please. As we prepare for revenue service, we continue to review and update our standard operating procedures and perform additional drills and exercises. This includes the launch and reduction of trains each day, and troubleshooting common train issues, such as responding to a train door and managing service recovery after a brief delay. Those are just a few of the exercises. At launch, our staff will be well prepared. They will have the experience in responding to these common issues prior to entering revenue service. We have recently completed one of 2 additional emergency response exercises planned involving our emergency response partners. On November 27th, we completed an emergency exercise involving a train in the Dowds Lake Tunnel. The remaining exercise to conduct is a situation where emergency responders will need to cross the rail line to respond to an emergency at the Ottawa airport and will be scheduled in the coming days. In addition to our operational drills and exercises, we are currently conducting system familiarization tours with staff and key stakeholders, such as our special constable unit, who will require firsthand knowledge of the rail line and the related systems. Additionally, we will be conducting tours with community accessibility stakeholder groups. Over the coming weeks, we'll be conducting drills, exercises, and ongoing training, all with the collective focus on operational preparedness. All this work is consistent with the advice and guidance from third-party experts, as well as is consistent with industry practices and findings from the public inquiry. Next slide, please. So again, as we continue to approach revenue service, our focus remains on continuing to build the reliability and experience in operating the rail line in all modes and weather conditions. The rail line, as Madame Emmacard mentioned, features long sections of single tracking, making switches and switch heater infrastructure essential for maintaining service reliability. We have experienced good performance of the switches and the gas-powered switch heaters, a lesson learned from line 1. And now that we are in the winter season, we have an opportunity to further confirm reliability as well as maintenance practices. In addition to the drills and exercises previously mentioned, we'll be also conducting winter exercises. These exercises will help both operators, controllers, as well as TransitNext personnel to become more familiar with how the system performs in winter conditions, especially our new diesel rail operators who have not operated during the winter season. During this final preparations period, and as my colleague mentioned, we are working collaboratively on improving the stability and reliability of the passenger information display systems, as well as the replacement of the defective elevator sensors at some stations. Furthermore, we're continuing to invest in our operating staff. We're continuing to practice and develop our teams, continuing with the ongoing recruitment and training activities to ensure the long-term stability of the system. Next slide, please. And lastly, and prior to turning things over to Ma'am Amakar, we have a few pictures here from this week's snow event, which was a great opportunity to experience the system in adverse condition. Overall, the system ran well. Trains launched on time, operated on schedule throughout the entire day without any significant disruptions, and all track and rail infrastructure, including the switches and switch heaters, functioned as intended. I'll now pass things over to Ma'am Amakar. Thank you.
Merci beaucoup, Troy. Now that we have a complete picture of where we stand and the key tasks remaining to open all train lines 2 and 4, I'm excited to announce an opening date. I would like to personally thank my entire team for their hard work and collaboration that has brought us to this major milestone. Thank you to my colleagues in the rail construction program, transit service delivery, and rail operations, and everyone at OC Transpo. I would also like to thank our customers, who I know have been waiting for today's announcement. We are excited to bring the O train to Ottawa's southern communities, the airport, Carleton University, and other key destinations. Roulement de tambour. Next slide, please. The O train lines 2 and 4 will officially open for weekday service on January 6th, 2025. This marks the first extension of the Stage 2 expansion project to open, a milestone we have all been looking forward to. Next slide, please. Starting on January 6th, O train lines 2 and 4 will open with 5-day service running Mondays to Fridays. This phased opening is informed by the findings of the public inquiry report, lessons learned, and third-party recommendations. A phased launch approach will help ensure customers have time to build their familiarity with the system, improve service reliability, and allow for comprehensive staff training. In addition, launching a major system change in winter is not a common practice in the transit industry, as the inclement weather adds extra complexity for operations teams and for customers. The phased opening of O train lines 2 and 4 will assist our team to better prepare to manage any service disruptions and allow customers time to build familiarity with their new trips. Customer experience and safety are our top priorities. Based on recommendations from the public inquiry and other reviews, parallel bus service will continue to run alongside lines 2 and 4 throughout the transition to full service. Pat will provide further details on this in a moment. As Richard mentioned earlier, we have incorporated feedback from Ricardo and have set criteria that we need to meet before expanding service to include weekends. Each phase will take a minimum of 2 weeks. Throughout this time, staff will assess the system to ensure it will deliver a positive customer experience. Once the system demonstrates the performance we expect, then we will expand to the next phase of service. Before implementing the next phase, information will be communicated on various channels to inform customers of the expanding service. Next slide, please. The phased approach follows lessons learned from the public inquiry, you know now, recommendations from Ricardo, and has proven successful in other cities. I think it's not a secret for everyone that I'm the president of the International Association of Public Transport, and I have the opportunity to speak with many different transit agencies from around the world. Many new systems have taken a phased approach to opening new lines. Some examples include Riyadh Metro in Saudi Arabia is undergoing a 4-week phased launch from December 1st to January 5th. In Paris, the Réseau Express Régional used a phased launch in 2024 with reduced service hours and limited number of trains. Finally, we know that Montreal, the REM, launched a portion of their system in summer 2023. They have reported that the phased approach has allowed for customer familiarization and enabled work to continue where needed, while still providing service to customers. As I mentioned previously, our goal is to ensure a smooth transition for customers, and a phased approach will be key to achieving this. Next slide, please. Service on line 2 and 4 will ramp up over several weeks in a phased approach. In phase 1, lines 2 and 4 will begin with 5-day service operating Monday to Friday. This will continue for approximately 2 weeks. Overall performance will be monitored and assessed during the first phase, and moving to the next phase will only occur when the system consistently demonstrates safe and reliable performance. During this phase, parallel bus service will be in place, running 7 days a week to ensure customers have reliable, familiar travel options. We invite everyone to try out the new train lines when they are comfortable, with the reassurance that bus service continues to operate. Additionally, our OC Transpo outreach staff will be on site throughout this transition period to assist customers. Next slide, please. Once the system has satisfied our performance standards, O-Train Line 2 and Lines 2 and 4 will move to 6-day service operating Mondays to Saturdays. This is expected to start a minimum 2 weeks after opening the line. Parallel bus service will continue running 7 days a week during this time as well. Similar to the first phase, this 6-day service will continue for at least 2 weeks and will be monitored and assessed before a decision is made to move to the third phase. Our outreach staff will continue to be on site to provide support. Next slide, please. After satisfying our performance and reliability requirements while operating 6 days a week, we will then move to operate full 7-day service, running Mondays through Sundays. Parallel bus service will continue 7 days a week as part of the transition to full service. It will only be gradually reduced when it is clear it is no longer required. Now I will hand over to Pat, who will provide details on parallel bus service. Pat, à toi.
Merci, René. Un service d'autobus sera assuré en parallèle des lignes.
A parallel bus service will be provided along lines 2 and 4 on various bus routes, including 97. These buses will provide a replacement service if any service interruptions occur. This approach is based on the recommendations of the public inquiry and on lessons learned as well.
This map shows the 3 bus routes that will provide parallel service to lines 2 and 4. You can see in the gray, running parallel to the green line 2, the B2 bus service that will run between Bayview Station and South Keys Station, serving all of the O-train stops along the line. That's the same service that's been running during the construction period. Route 97, which runs from Herdman to the airport, will continue to run to the airport in parallel to the blue line 4, and it makes connections with line 2 at Walkley, Greenboro, and South Keys stations. And in the south, Route 99 will continue to run from Barrhaven to Greenboro and in peak periods to Herdman, making connections with line 2 at Leitrim, South Keys, Greenboro, and during peak periods at Walkley. And we will also have a standby bus or more if required, waiting at or near Limebank Station in case they are needed to be launched into service in case of any service disruptions in that part of the line. And this will operate in this pattern through the 5-day phase and the 6-day phase of train operations. And then there's one small change that comes on the next slide, please. When 7-day service starts, we will modify Route 99 slightly in Riverside South so that in addition, it will make a connection with line 2 at Limebank Station, the end of the line, allowing everyone in Barrhaven and Riverside South who's along Route 99 to make an easy connection to the train, either at Limebank or at Leitrim. And then later on in the spring, in April, when we begin the new ways to bus, new bus route network, that's when we will bring more bus routes into all of the connecting points, all of the stations along the line for the full integration of the bus system with the 2 new O-train lines. And so now I will pass over to my colleague Amanda Thompson.
Merci, Pat. Comme l'a mentionné René, nous sommes
As
ravis
René
de
has said,
pouvoir
we're
accueillir
very,
les
very
differents
pleased to
mesures
be able to
4.
launch
While we-
lines
while
2
opening these
and
lines is
4.
exciting, we also recognize that it does mean change for many of our transit customers. So over the next few slides, I'll provide an update on our plans to support customers and ensure they have all the information they need to confidently use the new train lines and bus connections. Next slide, please. Our top priority is to provide customers with the information and support they need to successfully navigate their trip as the South Extensions open over these 3 phases. This means that we'll be meeting customers where they are and providing them with the resources and tools they need to understand and plan their trip during this exciting change. Over the past month, we've started to implement our customer education and marketing plan. On your screen right now, you can see a few examples of the advertising campaign that's already begun. Our advertising is tailored to key customer groups who will use lines 2 and 4, like students, workers, or families, and also to promote some of the important connections that the train will provide, for instance, to the airport or to Carleton University. The visibility of this campaign will be increasing over the next few weeks and will continue throughout the phased opening. Next slide, please. We've divided our campaign into 3 phases. This approach ensures that it's flexible, robust, informative, and supports and prioritizes customers to navigate the new system and the changes to their trips. In the first phase, which is already underway, we have been raising awareness of the upcoming launch and sharing information. Updates have been available through frequent messages across many channels and directing customers to the resources available on octranspo.com. Beginning today, we're transitioning into the second phase of the campaign. The focus here is to ensure customers are prepared and informed about the phased opening of lines 2 and 4, ongoing parallel bus service, and when decisions are made to extend rail service to both 6 and on to 7 days. For our customers, this means they will see more prominent and detailed customer information. It will include information on the opening date, the phased opening of lines 2 and 4, and the parallel bus service. It will also include important trip planning tools, including the travel planner and the transit app, which will be important for customers to plan their trips in advance of the line going into service. In this phase, we will also be doing additional advertising across social media, billboards, and digital spaces. Another way we're reaching customers will be by distributing information brochures on our buses, at customer service centers, and at the Ottawa Airport. To help ensure we are reaching every customer who may be affected and also to encourage new riders, we have developed a partner toolkit which has essential messaging that our partners will be able to share with their networks. One of those key partners is Carleton University, where students and faculty will be receiving newsletters and digital resources in order to get up to speed about how their trip to campus will change in 2025. As part of our partnership, we will also have student-focused ads online and on digital screens across campuses to help build awareness and ensure everyone knows where to find resources to plan their trip on octranspo.com. This second phase will be continuing until January the 6th, at which point we will move into the third phase of the campaign. This phase will include additional advertising on radio, print, bus shelters, and more. The full variety of campaign messages will be released at this point during this phase in order to reach a broader audience across the city. This includes messages for families and those who may use the system for recreation, shopping, or weekend trips. Our goal is to encourage new riders to try the system and make it a regular part of their travels. We are also planning to send a mail out to 120,000 households near the new lines, and will also be distributing a brochure at park and ride lots to inform those nearby residents and encourage new customers to try transit. Throughout every phase, we are actively monitoring customer feedback. Our campaign is data-driven and flexible. It allows us to adjust as needed to ensure we are prioritizing and supporting customers with the information they need. Next slide, please. We know that there's a lot of information for everyone, and customers will certainly have questions. As service gradually increases on lines 2 and 4, we will have information available through several channels in order to assist customers. There's a few I would like to highlight here. As of today, our travel planner is updated, and the transit app itself will be updated in the near future to allow customers to plan their future trips on lines 2 and 4, starting with weekday service, and then it will be updated as we move to 6 and 7-day service. Social media, octranspo.com, and signage at stations will provide additional information and support during the service rollout. We will also have outreach staff at key stations to support customers throughout their trip. This approach will ensure that we are meeting customers where they are and support them through every step of their journey. Next slide, please. So before I conclude, I would like to highlight some of our opening activities and how members of council can be involved. And to help councillors and our media partners get to know the system, we will be offering a familiarization tour on December the 16th. Invitations will be going out very shortly, and this will provide an excellent opportunity to explore the new lines and experience the key features of the system. I know that many communities are excited to celebrate the opening of a new station in their neighborhood. Our team has been in communication with several councillors about hosting councillor-led events at local stations in your wards. For those who are interested to organize an activity at any point during the phased opening or once we reach full service, our team has put together a detailed package outlining how OC Transpo can support to ensure a successful event, and we would be happy to further discuss these options. Once full service is achieved, and as we approach the start of the new Ways to Bus network, we will announce further opportunities to attract new customers. And finally, we continue to look forward to hosting a marquee event that will take place once the system has demonstrated reliability and is operating 7 days a week and in alignment with the new Ways to Bus network. Après plusieurs années de planification et de
After several years of construction and preparation, we're very happy to have reached this new stage. We're now ready to welcome and support passengers. And now to give the floor to Renee. Thanks, Amanda. This is something that we don't talk about much, which is very, very important in such a big project, I think.
A few key dates from today's presentation. First and foremost, thank you for attending today's technical briefing and listening to our presentation. I know this is a lot of detail and complexity. I look forward to welcoming councillors and media to a familiarization tour on December 16th. We will open lines 2 and 4 in 3 phases, beginning on January 6th with weekday service. We will then gradually expand to 6 and full 7-day service as the system demonstrates it is consistently achieving our expectations for reliability and performance. Throughout this time, parallel bus service will continue. Finally, the new ways-to-bus network will be implemented in April 2025. This will mark a major transformation of our entire transit system. Our goal throughout this time is to make this a positive transition for customers. This planned and measured approach is essential for ensuring we get it right. It allows us to adapt to the new system in phases, giving everyone, including customers and employees, time to adjust while continuing to offer bus service. As we come to a close, I want to once again express my gratitude to the entire OC Transpo team for their dedication to get this project to this point. I know that, like me, you are excited and proud of this accomplishment. The opening of lines 2 and 4 marks a major milestone as the completion of the first extension to the OTRAN network. This is a testament to the hard work of our teams, but our efforts don't stop here. As the new lines open to the public, our team will continue to work to ensure a smooth and successful launch of lines 2 and 4 and the other extensions in the coming years. This is an exciting time for OC Transpo, and I look forward to welcoming both returning and new customers to try the new system in a few weeks.
Shane Seguin, Rail Fans.
Thank you for taking our questions today, and happy that we have an opening date. It's a big milestone, so congratulations. My question, I guess, probably goes to Mr. Holder. With the phased opening, and there was mention of extended or enhanced engineering hours, what kind of things are you going to be looking for during or to take advantage of those hours to complete, to maintain, and to inspect?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So, we talk about that period for the first 4 weeks as being like a soft launch. So, there is what do we mean by a soft launch? We really want to give everybody the best chance of success of extremely reliable service. So that goes for the operators, but it also goes for Transit Next maintenance team as well. So, typically they just have a few hours in the evening from when service finishes to when vehicles launch in the morning to do the required maintenance. And so what we offer in terms of our soft launch, they will have the Saturday and Sunday for 2 weeks to be really comfortable about achieving all their maintenance tasks. They have to do all their preventative maintenance, but they may also be doing some responsive maintenance to issues that they see. And especially with the winter, providing challenges for switches and other track infrastructure, it just gives them that a little bit of extra time to be able to deal with things in the first couple of weeks. And so that's, we will take away that time. So at the beginning, they'll have the Saturday, Sunday for 2 weeks, then that'll drop to the Sunday. And then ultimately, when we go into revenue service, we'll be back to like the contractual state, which is they have to complete all their preventative maintenance during the engineering hours. But it really kind of helps with the success of the launch on the maintenance teams, from the maintenance team's perspective.
Again, with the phased opening, we're going to be starting with 5 days, then 6 days, then 7 days. What kind of communication will there be for passengers and customers knowing what to expect? Because obviously that can affect their trip and their whole experience on the whole system if they're not sure of what's going on a particular day.
Thank you for that question. So absolutely, yes, we need to get information to customers well in advance prior to making that change to the 6 and eventually to the full day service. So there will be advanced information once that decision is made, provided to council via a memo, which will also be shared with the media. There will be information available on OC Transpo's website, on our social media platforms. And then I would highly encourage everyone to check the travel planner or to use the transit app, because that information will be uploaded into both of those platforms right away. And customers will be able to go in and actually plan their trip in advance of the 6 and then 7 day service being implemented on the line, so that they know well in advance what that trip will look like on the weekends when that service begins.
There's a lot of differences between line 1 and line 2. Being a phased approach, taking your time, all the transparency, the different elements that are in place on line 2, such as, already starting with like gas and propane switch heaters compared to electric. There's no overhead wire, not rushing things. Can you just elaborate a little bit on the confidence you have in the system and the approach that's being taken to make sure that when it starts, that obviously it's a rail system, there's going to be issues no matter what, and in any city, how it's going to be vastly different from what happened with line 1, what confidence and elements are in place to make a bigger difference?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And I think to start off with, we would like to, like the team would like to point out that the reliability on lines 1 and 3 is really is very, very much improved. It's taken a number of years to get there. So it's not a case of there being an issue with the system itself, but there were issues with the launch. But now lines 1 and 3 are working very, very, very effectively. The reliability is great. And we've come through a winter storm. We've had many winter storms. We've had some bad days associated with freezing rain, but we feel like we're in a position now to mitigate a lot of the issues that have occurred in the past, in the first couple of years of operation. So, we try and make comparisons between the east-west line and the north-south line. They're both great lines, but they're different. And so the Trillium line, lines 2 and 4, that historically they had gas switch heaters. So, and in terms of the location and the fact that we have diesel trains operating on the system, it's a whole different way of designing the system in terms of the electrification. So on lines 1 and 3, east-west, we have traction power substations. There was big hydro upgrades. So we have a lot of power there that helps to support the electric switch heaters. There are some locations where those electric switch heaters did not perform that well, and so we took action and we made improvements. On the South Line, we haven't gone through that big kind of electrical upgrade because it's not necessary. So gas makes sense. So it's just like a couple of examples where it's not necessarily a case of one being better than the other. It's that they're different systems. We have almost like a heavy rail, commuter rail type of vehicle that's operating on the South Line. It's diesel. It's very different to the kind of tram train that we have running with the Citadis on the east-west line. So when we make comparisons, that they are different, but we have confidence in both systems. And in terms of the confidence level now in lines 2 and 4, we've been running trains for years on the line out towards Linebank, and so we've had operators running to a timetable for many, many months. We've closely tracking the reliability all the way down to the device level, and all the metrics are pointing to a system that it is performing very reliably. as you said, all transit systems have their issues and things may crop up, and we know that things will crop up, but our ability to deal with those, I think, is going to be very strong.